Inside a panic attack, the body's emergency broadcast. The false alarm, a masterpiece of error. There is a silent, ancient architecture at the heart of your survival, a system designed to keep you alive at any cost. It is a masterpiece of evolution, a high-stakes network of sensors and triggers that have protected our species for millennia. From the moment our ancestors first stepped onto the open savanna, this system acted as a silent guardian, a biological bodyguard that never sleeps. But we no longer live on the savanna. We live in a world of glass, silicon, and constant connectivity, a world that demands perpetual performance and navigates invisible, abstract stresses. What happens when this override switch, forged in the fires of primal survival, is flipped by mistake in the middle of a modern afternoon? Imagine you are sitting at your desk. The room is quiet. The coffee in your mug is still warm, its steam rising in a gentle, predictable swirl. Your to-do list is manageable. And then, without a single external reason, no predator, no falling debris, no screeching tires, the universe inside your head decides that you are dying. This is not a story of a broken mind or a defective spirit. This is the story of a system that loves you too much, a system so dedicated to your continued existence that it has decided to set your own house on fire just to make sure you're awake enough to run from a ghost. The spark, the amygdala's silent scream. The moment a panic attack begins, it doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't negotiate with your logic, consult your calendar, or wait for a real threat to appear. It acts like a biological exploit, a master code that bypasses decades of your social conditioning and evolved security protocols. The sentry in the basement. At the center of this storm is the amygdala, an almond-shaped cluster of nuclei deep within the temporal lobe. Think of it as the most sensitive smoke detector in the universe. Its primary job is to scan the horizon of your senses for anything that might signify danger. Usually, it works in tandem with the hippocampus, your memory center, and the prefrontal cortex, your logic center, to determine if a threat is valid. But in a panic attack, the hierarchy is inverted. The amygdala doesn't just detect smoke, it screams "fire" in a crowded theater when there isn't even a match lit. This is known as an amygdala hijack. The coup. The brain's primitive emotional core, the limbic system, stages an immediate and total coup. It seizes the internal microphone and broadcasts a signal of absolute emergency. The sidelining. The prefrontal cortex, the adult in the room, responsible for reason, impulse control, and long-term planning, is effectively unplugged. You cannot think your way out of a panic attack because the hardware required for complex thought has been temporarily disconnected from the power grid. The abandonment. The control tower is abandoned. The pilot has been locked out of the cockpit, and the plane is now being flown by an ancient, terrified autopilot that only knows one maneuver: maximum thrust. For the next several minutes, your brain truly believes it has encountered the ultimate survival challenge. It mistakes a minor spike in stress or a random physiological fluctuation for a life or death catastrophe and reacts with the full weight of its evolutionary arsenal. The cascade, the chemical flood. Once the override switch is flipped, the brain connects every circuit to the main power line, bypassing every fuse and safety measure you have. It is a switch that turns on every light in the city at once, with no regard for the energy cost or the long-term damage to the bulbs. The HPA axis, the body's war room. The amygdala sends a lightning-fast distress signal to the hypothalamus. This area of the brain acts like a command center, communicating with the rest of the body through the autonomic nervous system. It triggers the HPA axis, hypothalamic, pituitary, adrenal axis, a complex set of direct influences and feedback interactions. The result is a surge of norepinephrine and epinephrine, adrenaline. This is not a trickle, it is a dam breaking. The heart, the drumbeat of war. Your heart rate climbs instantly. It isn't just beating, it's pounding against your ribs like a prisoner trying to escape a cell. This is tachycardia with a purpose. The body is trying to pump oxygenated blood to your major muscle groups, thighs, biceps, chest, as fast as possible. It is preparing you for a fight that isn't coming or a sprint that will never happen. The breath, the oxygen trap. Your lungs begin to work at 1,000% capacity. You begin to hyperventilate, taking short, shallow breaths. Ironically, this intake of too much oxygen leads to a drop in carbon dioxide levels in the blood. This creates a shift in your blood chemistry, a literal chemical chaos called respiratory alkalosis. Your brain interprets the resulting dizziness and tingling as proof that you are suffocating, which makes you breathe even harder. It is a cruel, self-perpetuating loop. The skin and extremities, tactical withdrawal. The wires begin to glow red. You might sweat profusely, the body's way of pre-cooling the engine for the expected physical exertion of a fight. Simultaneously, your hands and feet might go cold or numb. This is vasoconstriction. The body is diverting blood away from the expendable extremities and toward the vital organs and large muscles. If a predator were to bite your hand, you would bleed less. In a quiet office, however, it just feels like your body is shutting down. The cortisol storm. This is the 10-minute god in reverse. Instead of a flood of dopamine, the currency of reward, you are drowning in a storm of cortisol, the body's primary stress hormone. While adrenaline is the sprint, cortisol is the marathon. It floods your system to keep you on high alert, suppressing non-essential functions like digestion and immune response. You are now a biological machine dedicated to a single, panicked now. The perception filter, the room with no exit. As the chemical flood intensifies, your senses begin to sharpen, but not in a way that feels helpful. You become hyper-focused and alert in a way that feels aggressive, invasive, and utterly terrifying. The most haunting part of a panic attack is not the physical pain, but the way it physically reconfigures your perception of reality. The distorted lens. Tunnel vision. Your pupils dilate to let in as much light as possible to spot movement. However, this causes your brain to ignore the periphery. The rich, complex, and comforting world outside begins to fade into a blur. Your field of vision narrows until you are looking at the world through a thin, dark straw. Derealization and depersonalization. As the brain struggles to process the massive sensory overload, it may decouple from reality. The world might look like a movie set, derealization, or you might feel like you are hovering outside your own body, depersonalization. This is a radical defense mechanism, the brain trying to distance itself from a death it believes is imminent. The neurological echo chamber. Your thoughts begin to run in a closed loop. Responsibilities, relationships, and the real world become muffled background noise. The only thing that exists is the panic. The lawyer of terror. The brilliant, logical mind, now a prisoner of the limbic system, becomes a lawyer hired to defend the impulses of a tyrant. It starts to rationalize the terror. It looks at the racing heart and says, "I'm having a heart attack." It looks at the dizziness and whispers, "I'm losing my mind." It justifies the primitive animal panic with modern, sophisticated fears. The room of your mind gets smaller and smaller, the walls covered in mirrors, reflecting only one desire, the desperate, immediate, and agonizing need to escape. But how do you escape a room that is built inside your own skull? The ghost of the savannah. Why we are wired this way. You might ask, why would a miraculous system like the human brain be designed to fail so spectacularly? Why is the off switch so much harder to find than the on switch? The answer lies in our evolutionary history. The human brain is an adaptation machine forged by hundreds of thousands of years of brutal survival. On the savannah, the cost of a false positive, thinking a rustle in the grass is a lion when it's just the wind, was very low. You just end up feeling a bit jumpy. But the cost of a false negative, thinking it's the wind when it's actually a lion, was absolute. Death. The evolutionary mismatch. Our brains are wired to prioritize the scream of the limbic system over the whisper of the prefrontal cortex. In the wild, you didn't need to contemplate the meaning of life while being chased by a predator. You just needed to run. In modern life, we don't face lions. We face emails, mortgage payments, social rejection, public speaking, and existential dread. But your brain hasn't received the software update for the 21st century. It still uses the same manual control protocols it used 10,000 years ago. It's an ancient survival signal misfiring in a world of fluorescent lights and spreadsheets. Furthermore, the brain learns the path to this panic too well. Because of neuroplasticity, if you experience panic attacks often, the neural pathways associated with that emergency exit are paved over and turned into neurological superhighways. This is the invisible scar of anxiety, the reason a single cue, a certain smell, or a specific thought can launch an unstoppable chain reaction that bypasses your reason entirely. Your brain has become efficient at being terrified. The invoice, the silence after the storm. Eventually, the power cuts out. No biological grid can run at 1,000% capacity forever. The body's stores of glucose and ATP, energy, are depleted. The hormones are eventually metabolized by the liver. The chemical glue of the emergency dissolves, and the adult in the room, the prefrontal cortex, slowly walks back into the control tower, surveying the wreckage. And then, the silence arrives. But it is not a peaceful, restorative silence. It is a return to a deep and crushing deficit. You have spent a week's worth of metabolic energy in 10 minutes. The joy of survival wasn't free. It was borrowed, stolen from all your future tomorrows. Biological bankruptcy. You aren't just tired, you are biologically bankrupt. Your neurotransmitters are depleted, and your muscles are heavy from the massive influx of lactic acid and tension. The emotional hangover. The heavy ache in your chest and the profound fatigue are the body paying the massive energy debt you accrued. You may feel a sense of shame or confusion, wondering why you reacted so strongly to nothing. Anhedonia. For a while after the attack, the color might drain from the world. Your favorite song might sound like grating noise, and your coffee might taste like bitter, flat water. This is the biological equivalent of your ears going numb after a loud concert. Your receptors are down-regulated. They have been overstimulated and now require time to reset. The true strength, reframing the storm. It's essential to remember one thing. Intensity is not the same as truth. A panic attack is the great trick of human consciousness. It asks you to mistake a temporary seizure of the senses for a literal collapse of your world. It's the feeling of falling from a great height, mesmerized by the terror on the way down, forgetting that you are actually standing on solid ground the entire time. The resilience of the machine. But here is the secret. The very fact that your body can generate such incredible power, even if it's currently misdirected, is a testament to your staggering resilience. Your brain is not broken. It is actually working too well. It is trying to protect you with a ferocity that is almost heroic. It's just a little bit confused about the when and the where. By understanding the science, the HPA axis, the amygdala hijack, the respiratory alkalosis, you begin to build a new off-ramp for rational thought. You learn to observe the sensations without becoming them. You can say to yourself, my heart is racing because of an adrenaline surge, not because it is failing. You aren't a design flaw or a weaker person. You are a human being with a powerful, protective, and sometimes overeager operating system. You are the occupant of a biological temple that has survived ice ages, predators, and plagues. A panic attack is simply the echo of that survival. Stay curious, stay human, and never stop exploring the intricate, terrifying, and beautiful science of what you feel. What part of your body's emergency broadcast surprised you the most? Is it the way your vision narrows, or perhaps the chemical debt you feel afterward? Let us know in the comments below. If you found this deep dive helpful, please subscribe to Sensation Lab for more explorations into the vast, uncharted universe inside your head.